Hey,
Okay. Hey, we did it.
yes.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. I do have to apologize. I'll probably be doing this because there's just cat hair and everything in my life. So I'm not actually picking my nose. But anyways, how are you?
Oh, that's all right. I'm doing all right. I'm not used to doing these this early. I was like literally like I've spent all day just doing like promo for our new stuff, and I'm like already like, and I'm already. It's only been 2 days, and I'm already driving myself crazy. So I'm like, oh, I gotta rest for like 10 minutes, and then I'm like, oh shit, it's almost 5:30.
What are you releasing right now?
We're doing we announced our first full-length album. It's called Mark of the Wolf, and it's coming out June 4th. And we put
Awesome.
out the new single yesterday, and we hadn't released anything in a few years, so I completely forgot how insanity-inducing it is to promote something.
It's changed. Yeah, things change every 2 years, sometimes every 6 months. So I get it.
Yeah, for sure. Anyways, how you been? It's great
Yeah.
to finally meet you in person, at least in some capacity.
Yeah, you as well. No, I've been amazing. Like I've never been better. Things are going really well despite the state of the world. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. I'm just getting back on the as I said, back on the musical horse because for the first like 6 months of the pandemic, we didn't actually do anything. We just had we had a few members leave, and then so I spent all the time trying to find new guys. So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much it. But yeah, no, I've seen that like you've been just releasing lots of shit. So
Yeah, it don't stop over here. It doesn't. It's really strange. My situation, I guess. I don't know. Maybe someone can relate because when the pandemic hit, I was just like, you know, naively thinking, oh, it'll only be like 6 months. That's it. It'll so like I was like, cool, like I get to stay inside, I get to do an album, and now here we are at 13 months, and I'm like, well, just gonna keep going down the same path. And know a lot of people have been so mega cool and reached out and been like, hey, can you sing on my album? Can you play harp for me? Along with writing my own stuff and finally getting my black metal band Antiqva off the ground. So yeah, it's just nonstop writing, recording, releasing, repeat. That's all we do over here.
yeah, that's sweet. And you're actually one of the few people that I've had on this show who actually lives in Ontario as well. Because
True.
most of the people I have on here are like either from the States or Europe.
Right.
So so usually I ask like, oh, what's the situation like over there? But I know for you, I think we're in the same boat at the moment. It's
What the
just
same sinking ship that is
yeah, like,
Ontario.
oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, like yeah, it's just madness right now. Like I was in the same boat as you. I kind of thought like, oh, this is I actually thought it was gonna be less. I thought it was gonna be like, okay, well, maybe not 6 months, but I thought, okay, this will after the summer, then everything go back to normal. Nope.
No,
Uh,
you got to roll with the punches, right?
yeah, for sure. So, anyways, I'll just do my little thing. So, as usual, if
Yeah.
anybody who's watching has any questions, put them in the comments, and we'll get to them. So I guess to start things off, so obviously you've been very prolific during this time. So you've been obviously working on your own stuff, and you said you've been doing a lot more album features recently, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird one because no two projects are the same. Like no two bands are the same, right? And sometimes it's like, hey, do you want to be the choir? Hey, do you want to play harp to heavy metal? Like, or do you want to do some speeches? Which I like. I feel like because of my previous band, I've been cursed to be the sassy speech therapist on so many metal albums, and I'm like, but I that's actually my least favorite thing to do. I'm actually like not a big fan of speeches unless it's musical theater. I think it's acceptable. um
Mm,
so like, I'll do it for friends and if I dig the track, obviously. But yeah, it's really cool, but it's I've slowed it down recently because I got offered. I'm currently working on something. I can't say who yet. Really big name in metal, and they asked me to come play harp on, I think we're up to five. Well, there's 3 songs now, up to 5 songs on their new EP. And I just knew that I needed to like kind of clear space to give this like all the love in the world, because you can't do everything at once. Like you'll spread yourself so thin, right?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, no, like I know what you mean there, because like obviously since we have had this time, everyone's been able to take on different projects and all that. And I know me personally, I was just doing some stuff for friends too, and it's been really interesting how like in over our heads we can get sometimes in terms of like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. But
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the speech thing, because I've heard a few singers do that. Like I know Vicky Tsarakis did one for the new Epica album, and I'm just like, when I saw that, I'm just like, she's not singing on it? Like I've always thought if you're gonna have something like that, like you should get like a voice actor for something like that, honestly.
Makes the most sense. Someone who does like cartoon characters or voiceovers, you know what I mean?
Honestly, like I'm someone that I've always said, and I'm surprised more bands don't do this, is I'll say, if you want a voiceover in a band, even if this kind of medium of media isn't your thing, I'd say look up like voice actors who do like anime, because they like have like the most like intense voices that could fit so well on a heavy metal record. So I'm like, why are people doing this?
You know who I just like, I want them to narrate my whole life is, I forgot his name. I'm a terrible person, but he's the voice of Erebos on The Dragon Prince, or he's the face stealer from Avatar. And he has like the best voice I've ever heard. Like, I wish he just had a Patreon where he just tells you stories. I would throw all my money at that. Yeah, in anime, there's some really incredible, iconic voices. And yeah, I mean, but hey, like as singers, like we can do it too. Like fake it till you make it. I've always taken on weird projects that have just been chucked at me, and it's like, I'll do my best, and if it's good, use it. If it's crap, like throw it in the bin, But yeah. I totally agree with what you're saying. Like there's great ones.
Like I think for me, my kind of dream person to have like do voice acting on an album is Crispin Freeman. He does the voice of, I think, Alucard from Hellsing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, I want that guy, because he has such like a big, booming, intense voice. I'm just like, yeah, I want that guy on everything. I want it, as you said, I want, like, if I get up in the morning, I want to, like, this guy narrate how I'm making breakfast. So
it just make you feel epic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, this is the drive I need for the day. Thank you.
Oh, that'd be incredible. Yeah. Oh man, so true. So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Your new
I'm
release.
not used to that, but okay.
No, I know, I'm horrible. I'm like Oprah. I'm terrible. It's like I'm getting interviewed, but I'm like, I want to know about you. Did you record this new release during the pandemic?
Sort of. Like,
okay.
So we had what happened is that we actually recorded this album a long time ago, like 2018, I think. But what happened is that literally it was like Spinal Tap. Literally everything that could have went wrong. Like a lot of the people we were working with had life things come up, and again, that's no one's fault, but it's just, it happens. Like our engineer had a kid halfway through production, so we had to stop that for a while.
The worst thing to ever happen to a band, kids. Yeah,
exactly. Hey, how dare you have a kid in the middle of an album?
Procreate? How dare you?
Jesus. But yeah, no, and but what happened we did that, and we did the and around the time we did it, I realized that I couldn't sing like how I usually do, because like my style of vocal is like the power metal Rob Halford, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. And so I tried recording it without doing it, and when we got the rough mixes back, it sounded horrible. And I thought, you know what? I found out what it was later. I had a vocal issue. I had vocal edema.
What is that?
So I went to Mary Z from Voice Hacks and Helium Prime. She was like my vocal coach for a while.
I know Mary. She's my homie.
Mary is one of the coolest people ever, like for real.
And a great coach. A really great coach.
Oh yeah. And she explained to me, because I told her what happened, and she said, well, I'm not a doctor, but I think I know what it is. She's described it as, when you hit your arm and you get like a bruise? Mm-hmm. It's like that on your vocal cord. She's like, it's not serious, but it takes forever to heal, and you can't sing like your half your register is like gone when that happens. So I waited till it healed, and then the pandemic hit, and then I ended up re-recording I think 90% of the vocals at home, which was shit because I need that other person here to tell me if the take was good or not. So
yeah, self-producing is hard. I did that this week, and it's like I have my co-producer Tyler from Monolithic Productions here in Oshawa. He's amazing. He's actually working with Lutharo or Luthario.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know how to say their name properly. I'm the worst.
Man, yeah,
He's like
the band,
doing, yeah.
the band that we always get mixed up with.
You're both great. You both, so it happens. But yeah,
I love Lutharo. Like Krista was on the show a few weeks ago, and
yeah.
someone in the chat asked her like, "Oh, how did you two find out about each other's bands?" And we both said we got confused for the other one.
Literally, we get confused. Oh my God. Yeah. No. Props to you for self-producing. I just did that this week for like a fantasy-based song. I was like an elven queen. It was epic. And but yeah, like you're there and you're like, okay, this is good enough, I think. Like not having your engineer or producer around it's rough, but if you can do it, right?
Yeah, like for me what happened was that like I just spent way too long on a lot of the takes, and one thing I found funny is that even though I self-produced a lot of the songs, because a few of the songs I recorded originally, I actually recorded before I had the vocal issue. Okay. So those were fine. So I kept those, but I think like 6 out of the 8 songs I had to redo. And I remember afterwards, the guy who mastered our album was Jack Costo from Seven Spires. They're friends of ours. And he's going to produce our stuff from now on because he's like, oh, dude, all these vocal tracks are really good, but if you need someone, I'm like, yes, please, dude. Like, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope it works out. Like, that's really cool. So you finished your recording just recently in the past few months, or?
Yeah, I finished it back in February, I think. And then it just was the case of waiting for our label to give us not a release date, but like because of COVID, like a ballpark kind of time of when it'll be out.
Okay, cool.
So it's yeah. Also, before we get into the actual meat of the discussion, which is the stuff I want to ask you, sure. a few people I know just showed up. Our drummer Panos is here. Sup, man? I haven't seen him in a while. And Seven Spires is epic. Yes, they are. And I saw New Autumn full albums on here. If you're still watching, dude, what's up? But anyways, so in preparation for this, I went and listened to Martyrs and Worlds Away again, and all like absolutely phenomenal stuff. But the thing I really liked from you was the new Antiqva song. So one thing that I was going to ask about that was, so how did the production of that go, and how's the production of the current album coming for that?
Sure. Yeah. Oh man, that's a can of worms. So I'll start from the beginning. The reason that we had something out in December, if you're still here, Curtis Dewar of Dewar PR, he's the guy. Everybody hire him. He's the best. He was like, yeah, if you release beginning of December, like not a lot of people are releasing, so you'll get a lot of press. So I go to our lead singer Zen, and I'm like, here's the deal. And I think we agreed to this like either July or August beforehand. So we were just like, let's do it. And we were like, it's going to be tight. Like we had a band meeting. So like my band's all over the world, right? Like we're on 3 different continents, Australia, North America, Europe. Like we're all scattered. So we hopped on a Zoom call at ungodly hours and for a few people. And we decided, okay, like we can do this. It's going to be tight. But it was it was hell in a handbag, like getting everyone to record remotely, get it all together. If it wasn't for Tyler, again, shout out to him at Monolithic Productions, he took everything, edited it, lined it up so like someone could mix and master it. But yeah, it was, thank goodness it was only 2 songs. One of them being like the song that you heard, Funeral Crown, like full on chamber black metal, and then more of like a chamber folk weird chant thing. It's a bonus track on the vinyl. And that was insane. It was always down to the wire, but it happened. It's out there, and now we are finishing up composing for the album, which I think we're sitting at almost 13 songs. I could be wrong. Could be only be 11. I don't know. But yeah, it's a lot, especially now because we've realized like we're chamber black metal, so we need a horn quartet, we need a string quartet, we need a 4-piece medieval choir, we need, you know, like we know what we need now, and then it's just like finding it, getting it recorded, coordinated. It is the best and the most complicated thing I've ever done with my life.
Yeah, and that's what I was about to ask, was that like, what's it like having to deal with having bandmates on 3 different continents?
You know what? It's really awesome because everyone is like in it to win it and has such a like great attitude and workhorse mindset. Like, and it also, like, for example, it's great as much as I miss Zen, and I'm gonna cry if I think about how long it's been since I've seen him. But you know, because he's in Australia, like one day I started the web shop and then I went to sleep, and 4 hours later he finished it, you know. And it's just, it's so cool, like from scratch. Like we had to set it up, sign up, build it, design it, like make it beautiful, you know, for the launch kind of thing. And it's really great. Like everyone has been on the road, they've toured, they know what this business is like. So it's really nice. It's not like I have to take someone who's never been on tour before, never done an album before, and kind of explain to them like how this all happens. We all know, and everyone's just so focused and committed and hardworking. So like I like it. I miss them a lot. Actually, before the pandemic hit, we were gonna meet up in Norway. We were gonna release this single and make the funds, which we did, and we're like, okay, paid everyone to get to Norway and like, you know, have a 2-week-long writing trip and just write the album to the best of our ability. That didn't happen, but yeah, it's annoying because sometimes like you'll open up the chat in the morning and everyone in Europe's already started like a 200 messages conversation, and you're like, I can't do this. Like, but yeah, that's the, you know, the only downside to it. It's pretty great.
Yeah, and how fitting meeting in Norway to write a black metal album.
I know, we're so cliche.
Oh
So
yeah,
cliche.
oh yeah. What are you gonna take a trip to? What was that record store called? The one Mayhem used to run. You're gonna take a trip there, get some
blood.
Yeah, go down to the basement to get some, see if the black metal gods will give you some inspiration.
So, funny story, I was there with Zen in 2015, and we were literally right in the room next to where that, like, it says black metal, and it all started, and we missed it because we were too busy looking for, like, Satyricon and Mayhem t-shirts. And that's, like, my biggest regret to this day, like, not asking where the room was.
It's actually funny you mentioned that, because I don't know if he's watching or not, but I have we have a good friend. Oh no, I'm talking about someone else.
I'm like, Zen, he's probably in bed right now.
Oh no, I meant
no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about a friend of mine. Yeah, no, I have a friend of mine here in Ottawa. His name is Matteo. He's a Italian guy, and we actually all lovingly call him here the Metal Whisperer, because his big thing's black metal, and if you name any old school famous black metal guy, he probably knows them, like, personally. Like, this guy does like frequent trips to Norway, and he hangs out with like Abbott and Ishan and all that, and to the point where I even asked him, I said, hey, theoretically, if we wanted to like potentially have Ishan or whoever guest on a track, could you make that happen? He looks at this. We were on our way back from like a show at this point. He looks at me and goes, I can call him right now if you want. I'm like, no. I'm just hypothetically, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's freaking nuts. Before we keep going, we have a question here. It's from Farjestad BK Joaquin Hilding. I'm very sorry if that's a bit of a trend on the show, is me butchering people's Instagram names.
Just don't say their name if you can't say it.
Yeah, well, I get like if I read the question, they'll know it's them.
Yeah.
They said, so Lindsay, who would you like to work with that's not metal, past or present?
Oh man, like Johnny Cash.
Really?
He's not with us anymore. And The Weeknd, I absolutely love The Weeknd. I would love to do like a dark electronic track with him. But
Oh, really?
yeah, he's huge now though. I met him at a house party when he was 18, and now he's untouchable.
That's nuts.
Yeah, yeah, we're from the same neighborhood, so kinda, so.
It's always hilarious to hear stories from people who like met, like who knew famous people before they became famous. Like obviously from here in Ottawa, like maybe not a musician, but there's like you'll probably meet a few people who'll tell you like, oh yo, I went to high school with Matthew Perry or Alanis Morissette or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in Canada, like there's so many gems. Like we all know someone who blew up by proxy, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Also, greetings from Ireland, greetings from Finland. Hey, what's up? It's always funny when I do these streams because, like, as I try and get like very like diverse guests, so it always blows my mind of who shows up in the chat. The other day we had someone from Venezuela show up in the chat.
Cool.
We're like, huh? Yeah. But anyways, from what he asked, that's actually a really good segue into the next thing I was going to ask. Because one thing I know from seeing you, because I've seen your streams that you've done with Gaia and all that, because she's like a good friend of mine as well. And one thing that I know you guys have always talked about is that one of your big influences, and I hear this in your solo album and also on your harp album as well, is you're a big fan of old school goth, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the strange thing is I didn't really get into it until, like, we're talking like post-punk, right?
I meant like, I guess like stuff like you've mentioned like Dead Can Dance and The Cure and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Bauhaus or Sisters of Mercy, Susie, yeah, like all of that, of course. But I didn't get into it until like my mid to late 20s. You know, like my introduction to goth was in high school. So I was in high school from oh man, I'm ancient. I'm gonna turn to dust. I was in high school from 2000 to 2004. So like for me, goth was Kitty, you know, Korn, strangely enough, Cradle of Filth, obviously, Dimmu Borgir, Manson was big then, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, that was what I first perceived as goth, and then I went back and I, you know, saw who the goth fathers and goth mothers were. Then I was like, okay, like, this is where it all stems from. But yeah, absolutely. Like, also big, I consider Depeche Mode at points goth. The Cure, huge fan. Yeah, there's so much where goth shows up every decade, definitely.
Yeah, like so, and it's funny. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because like I'm kind of the same. Is that like in my group of close friends that like they're not really in. They're like obviously big music fans. They're not really musicians, and they're all. I'm a metalhead in a friend group full of goths, so I've always hear all this stuff, and I love all of it. And I heard a lot of influence in it on your stuff, like especially on your harp album. I heard some, or not even on your harp album, just on your album in general. I heard lots of like a little bit of Dead Can Dance and Cure here and there and stuff like that. And it's funny because actually one of my best friends, Duncan, he's told us this before, his life's goal, because of how much of a recluse she is now, is to meet Susie Sue. I think his life's goal.
Yeah, she's like 62 now, I think. Like, she's had her time. I hope she is, you know, like doing pottery and knitting and enjoying the springtime and wherever she is right now. Like, yeah, that would be so cool. I wouldn't even know what to say with her. I mean, I bet she doesn't look anything like she used to. You wouldn't even recognize her.
Oh, probably not. He always brags to us. He told us that the closest he got, because me and him are both part British, like both of our families are from England. Cool. So he always tells me, he goes, oh, I met a guy at a record store in Camden Market who knows their hairdresser. I have to go find that hairdresser. We're getting just madness.
Private detective.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's just freaking insane. But yeah, no, but like in terms of obviously you have like all the goth influence and all that stuff. One thing I like to do when I have a vocalist on this show, because it's something I'm really interested in hearing, is I know this might be a little bit of a broad question, but but bear with me here. It's so where do you get your inspiration for your lyrics from? Like do you do it like through making up fiction or from personal experience, both?
Oh, that's a good question. Like I love storytelling, and I think my favorite lyricists are definitely like Johnny Cash and Depeche Mode. Like brilliant, like just straight to the point, tells a story, no BS. Like I love that about their writing style, and they influenced me heavily growing up. But it's really strange. Like when a song comes to me, it's usually the melodies there with like some vague lyrics, and then the lyrics show up based on the conversation I want to have with myself or the story I'm telling to the listener. So like lyrical influences, like I don't know, it's such a hot mess. I'm actually working on a project right now where I'm bringing people into the creative process, and it shows like where my lyrics start, which sounds like a 13-year-old wrote in their diary, to like where they end, where it's like, you know, some serious stuff that connects with the soul. So yeah, like lyrically, it's just one of those things where it just comes when it's ready and the conversation's there. And like, yeah, obviously, I'm sure you feel the same way as a vocalist. You look back on what you wrote like 5 years ago, and you're like, I hate this. I want to change all of it. Like,
you don't. I'll tell you this, just as a not to downplay anything that's on our upcoming album, but some of those songs I actually wrote years ago. And there's songs I feel like they deserve to have like good production and all that. But I look at some of the lyrics, I'm like, I wrote that when I was in the 12th grade.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess like in our genre, because you said you're like, oh, something a 13-year-old girl would write in her diary. For me, it's like a lot of the songs, it's like the Man of War, you know, metal. We are metal, and we don't care what you say.
Oh, so cute.
Leave the hall, and I'm like, I mean, that's cool, but like, there's a certain point where you got to get past that, I think.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people don't know is I did start writing music at 14, 15, and I started in like pop punk. So like my writing back then was like really teenage, you know, like it's like I still have my first notebook from high school, and there are days where I debate throwing it in the fire.
Oh, I'll admit, I've actually have thrown a few of my own lyrics into the fire. Because it's the stuff I wrote, it's stuff I wrote when I was in high school, which I'm like, man, this is so cringy.
Yeah. But I mean, it's cool to always kind of look back on like how far you've come as a lyricist and a writer. Like it is, or just shameful and cringy, obviously.
Yeah. I've looked back at some of my attempted lyrics from middle school. Ouch. Yeah, that's all of us.
Yep. You know, I really wonder, like those bands that blow up just out of high school. I'm like, are you really writing your lyrics? I'm gonna check the liner notes on your album when your album drops, just to be sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just like who knows? There's like someone who's like, you know, could be a prodigy, but I'm just like, you're not. I'm just thinking. I'm not saying this as like an insult. It's just because we're all like this. I'm like, you're not eloquent enough yet.
Yeah, like who's helping you out? Like the only exception to the rule, I believe, is Billie Eilish. But other than that, it's like, you know, some people aren't poets. Like they're natural born poets, and at 15 they can write epic songs. You know.
Well, does Billie Eilish write all of her own lyrics or no?
That's what I've been told. I haven't fact checked this, but like 10 people told me like she writes all her lyrics with her brother who writes all the music, and for someone her age, she really conveys like human emotion very well. Kind of like, I guess, like a lot like Kurt Cobain. Like a lot of people have kind of said she's like the Kurt Cobain of our time in that sense, and that's great. Like good on her.
Yeah, I'll fully admit, because this is something like that. It took me a bit of a while to kind of accept, but when Billie Eilish first came out, I like hated it, because like I heard that song "Bad Guy" and I'm just like, man, these are such like, these lyrics are just but now hearing other stuff, I'm like genuinely like, okay, yeah, this is actually like really well written, you know, especially for someone who's like in the genre that she is, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. In the beginning, I was a bit put off by it too, because I felt it very, like, I don't like speeches, very speechy, but no, she's great.
You mean like almost talk singy almost?
Yeah, like it's just kind of like it was like very softly spoken, and I'm like, you know, us coming from metal, we expect people to like belt it. So
And be powerful, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the next thing I'll get to is I said I have notes here so I can keep track. So
Okay, you're doing great.
well, I've said this on a few times, but like I've started doing this because the first few episodes I started doing this, I winged it, and there was a few times where we'd get like halfway through, like at the time we're at now, and I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I've run out of everything I've thought. I can't think of anything else.
Feel your
Yeah.
pain.
Oh, actually, before we keep going, we have another question. Alex asks, are there lyrics from a song you've heard that inspired one of your songs?
Sometimes, yeah. The Birthday Massacre I'm a huge fan. I've been following them since like 2006, 2007. And they're great people, great musicians, great writers, performers. And those first, like that first album, Violet, and then the one that followed it, those really inspired me to kind of get into that headspace of like a very, I don't know, fantasy driven, but like, is it real? Is it fantasy? And like, I wouldn't say specific lyrics have inspired me to you know, like to write a song, but they've heavily influenced that style. But I'd say like sometimes I notice like there's lyrics from maybe like Phil Collins or like Journey that sneak their way into my songs, and I'm like, how did that happen? But yeah, I like a lot of older music because I'm older.
I'm really young, but I like grew up on like 70s metal. So
Nice.
whenever I bring up the name like UFO or Rainbow to the kids at school, everybody's like, "The fuck you talking about?"
Yeah. Well, just, you know, like cheers to your parents. They raised you well.
Actually, it was my folks did, yeah, but that was actually my uncle. My uncle's the one that got me into metal because he was, since my dad's side are British, he was a metalhead back in the 70s. Name almost any band, and he's seen them like from back then. Like he saw Sabbath in their prime with he saw Rainbow, Deep Purple, all of those. So he showed me all that stuff, and I loved it. And then I'd be like telling the kids at school, and they'll be like, "Huh, Judas Priest? What? I don't hear that on the radio."
Yeah, they have no idea.
Oh, another question. Metal Dave asks, "Who's your dream person to record with?" Is that the same answer as before, or?
I don't know. I guess it probably like. I mean, yeah, I'd love to. The non-metal person is like The Weeknd. I would love to work with Jonathan Davis. Like that would be so cool. Yeah, I mean, for recording, like I'm really happy with a person I co-produce with. Yeah, who knows? Like the sky's the limit. I probably want to really like work with the Budapest Orchestra. I think that's like the next big dream. So
Sweet. Lucas MacArthur from Solaris, up, bud? Got a jet. It's been awesome listening to you guys. Oh, thanks, bud. All right, so we have, man, we're getting a lot of questions. Thanks, guys, because I'm like looking at what I have to ask, and I'm like, oh man, how do I put this? So thanks for giving me the time, people. Anyways, yeah, Alex asks, is there a movie or TV show that you think your music would make a perfect soundtrack for? Oh, yeah, that's a really good question.
oh, probably like Queen of the Damned movie. I love that soundtrack, but I like you can't touch a classic. I don't know, like anything that's like spooky or like it's got like a dark street edge to it, or anything like, even like I feel like some of my stuff, you know, could fit in fantasy stuff if you place it properly. But yeah, I never really thought about that. Maybe anime.
It's funny you bring that up because when I was listening, because I was listening to Worlds Away earlier, and one thing, and I guess this is maybe just how I think of whenever I think of harp, but I heard a lot of like old Final Fantasy in that.
Sick. I used to play 7 like it was like I was gonna kill the console. Like
7 is great. 7 is awesome. I love it. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, no. So speaking of harp, that's the next thing I was gonna ask. So like, because as you mentioned before, there isn't like a lot of people in metal who their one of their like primary instruments is harp. Like the only two people I can think of are you and Gaia. So that's like it. So how did you decide to start playing harp? Like, was it just to like stand out and like kind of and be unique in like in your genre, or how'd you begin to do that?
That was like never the plan. It was kind of like a thing where it was something I just really wanted to do for myself. You know, like there's obviously when it comes to making music and branding and marketing, there's like rules that you got to go by. And I really fell into like, I don't think I'm one of the best pianists or keyboardists out there, but I fell into a role thanks to my previous band. Um, but the harp was something that came about. Like I really love a lot of folk and fantasy music. And then I heard when I was 22, I heard the album Vespertine by Bjork. It's still one of my top 5 albums ever. And I was like, what is that, the harp? Like, what is that? And then I decided from there on, it was a long, I think it took me 2 years to save for my first harp, which I still have and I'm using for this big opportunity on the EP right now. I'm super stoked about to pinch myself sometimes, but it was like, okay, like this is something I want to do for myself. And I was very young and naive. I was training for classical piano at the time, and I was like, oh, it'll be like piano, you'll be fine. No, it's like a whole other monster that, you know, I needed to adapt to. And then it was really strange because like I started, the learning curve was really hard. It was so different from piano. And those first few years it was like okay, like I could play some basic stuff. And then when I was really like ready to get into it, um you know, Cradle Filth hired me and I was on the road with them for a very long time. And you can't really bring a harp on the road. Like I tried it for 1 year with them. I got a travel harp made and it was just like a clunky nightmare. You know, didn't even have the levers, so I couldn't change the tuning at my own will, kind of thing. It was really annoying. But yeah, it was just kind of something that like I was like, I wanted to do it for myself. And then I saw what the Harp Twins were doing. And I was like, that's pretty cool. Like they're something else. They are just like otherworldly. And I have so much respect for them. You know, but then finding like the journey to putting harp to heavy metal has been very interesting because the low frequencies get lost in the band. Like the lower notes on a harp, like forget it. It just sounds like pots and pans smashing around, or it gets like totally drowned out. So it's the higher notes that really work. And you know, on occasion it would kind of be in parts where there wouldn't really be much going on with the band at all. But what I've learned, shout out to Leah, the Celtic folk metal artist. She's like my mentor, one of my dearest friends. I was really blown away with her albums, Kings and Queens and The Quest, and how she's placed harp in with heavy metal. And then I was like, okay, I see what she's doing. And I'm sure, you know, she'll just be like, oh, I just did the thing. And it just, you know, it happened naturally because everything that woman touches turns to gold. She's got the Midas touch. I don't care what she says. And I was like, okay, so now I see like I've got to play high stuff, how it complements the guitar, the band. So it was really never like the plan, like, oh, let's put the harp to heavy metal. It was more like, I'm doing this for me, for when I write all my soft music. It's gonna be really fun. And then it just kind of fell into heavy metal, and I guess kind of became my thing, which is really really cool because I don't really know. Obviously, Guy's got her own thing going on with like her dark electronic music. But I don't really know anyone in like black metal or gothic metal who's really either than Leah, but she's more on the folk symphonic end, right? I don't know anyone who's doing that and putting harp to that style of music. So it's really cool to say like, oh, like I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm the first, look at me, I'm so cool. But like, it's just really cool to be like called upon to be asked to do that, especially with this new EP that I've been working on. It's working. Like I don't want, I bet if I give away the subgenre, people will be able to guess it very quickly. But it's working out extremely well, and I never thought that it would gel with this subgenre of heavy metal, but right now it's working and it's blowing my like it's absolutely blowing my mind. But that's the thing, I always notice anything that I take on as a hobby just becomes part of my career. Like I used to make my own headdresses, and then all of a sudden I'm wearing them on stage, and then there's demand to make more headdresses, and I'm like, oh no, why can't I have a hobby? But so I've actually started on a new instrument. I'm not saying what it is yet because it's going to be, again, a whole other learning curve. And I don't want to show the world until I'm good at it. So, but yeah.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. It's interesting you mentioned Leah, because I don't hear a lot of people mention her. Because I know. I mean, I don't know her personally, but I've heard her in a lot of the. She's actually been in a lot of like power metal stuff too. Like she's been in some of the Project Aegis stuff, and I didn't know that. And I remember hearing about her, and I remember Curtis brought her up once, and I was like, oh wow, like she's actually known in Canada. I thought this was like a European thing, you know?
Right.
And also, before we keep going, we have a few more comments. There's been a huge comment chain right here. Also, Babel228, it's been a while, man. What's up? Saying, oh, how great would it be if Lindsay did the soundtrack for the new Addams Family Netflix show?
Oh, I would love that. I just don't know who the film score composer is, or the music supervisor. That'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Alex again asks, what's the differences between working in a band and working on a solo project, advantages/disadvantages? And I know you have a lot to say on that, because I've heard you say it in other places before. So
yeah, I mean, the only real difference is as a solo artist, I just know what I want, and I can go ahead and do it. And I don't surround myself with yes people. Like I can bounce it around or bounce it off of the people in my team, because I have a team around me. Like you can't do everything alone. And I'm like, what do you think of this? And usually they're just like, that's awesome. But I also like know what my fans want, and I listen to them, and I'm very connected to them. But being in a band, before this used to bother me, because it's kind of like, have you seen that movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? And they're like, when they have to like make a decision and how ridiculous the process is. I've experienced that in the past, and I'm like, are we really like I don't even want to bring ideas to you anymore because I have to wait like 6 months for a query. Okay, so no, but with Antiqva, it's Zen is like my lead singer. The lead singer on my band Antiqva. I can't talk right now. Him and I very much like we've told each other when our ideas suck, but it's cool to be like, hey, I have an idea, what do you think of this? And then you bring it to them, and then they're like, well, actually, yeah, and we should totally like add on this, and we should do this, and we should also include this. So like I love the creative collaboration that happens, but it's also being in a band, like there's a lot of communication and a lot of other personalities and creatives that you need to be aware of, and making sure you're accommodating them and they're doing okay. Where with my solo band, it's just kind of like, okay, like, so can you do this thing? I'm going to pay you this much. Like, it's very different. Where in the band, it's like, hey, are you feeling okay today? How are you feeling about this? Like, are you available on, like, it's a lot of communication. Like being in a band is so much more work. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh no, I totally get it. And especially like with a band, it's also one thing, and it's two things that like I want to add on to that, because one thing that you brought up that I'm really happy about, I was going to ask you about this later actually, but I'm glad you brought it up now, was you mentioned you don't surround yourself with yes men, and that's something that I find is something that more people need to hear, because I find that nowadays, especially with how oversaturated the music scene is, you'll hear a lot of these bands, and again, I'm not mentioning any names or anything, we'll hear all these new bands who they'll put out like really subpar recordings, and it's usually like their buddy in their garage who record them. Yeah, yo, man, that's sick. Yeah, do that. And then when it comes out, it just sounds awful. So it's like, that's why we've had to learn this the hard way. We recorded back in when I was in like the 11th grade. We recorded our demo in our friend's basement. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I feel like you have to like have somebody to give you like an objective opinion and tell you whether something's good or not, even if it's someone outside the band, so it's something I feel like more people need to hear.
Yeah, and that's kind of the process. Like I have a group of like 5 to 10 people who are not bullying me. Like bullying is being like, dude, this is shit, you should quit music. That's bullying. But like constructive criticism, be like, I think you could sing this part better. I think you should take out this part. It just destroys the flow of the song. I do have like a very positive kind of feedback group that I've got going on. But yeah, I've seen in my time in the industry, I've experienced people who could be very successful, but they surround themselves with people who only just like just say yes, just okay, whatever you want, like usually because this person is very difficult, and it's like there's no thought process. There's like, oh, you know what, maybe you should wait 6 months and work on developing this and then release it then. Maybe maybe you should do this, but instead they're just like, no, you're great, and it's like, I think that doesn't breed success. I think it creates mediocrity. Like, if I'm going to be honest, like, you need people who challenge you in the best way possible. But if you're just going to surround yourself with yes people, you're only ever going to be mediocre.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's unfortunate that you see that all too often nowadays, you know. Before I get to the last part, because we have about like 15-20 minutes left, there's a couple more things here, I guess. Metal Dave does a duet with Lindsay and Leah would be killer. Yes, it would.
Oh, I would love that. Sorry, the emoji I just put, it's an inside joke with Curtis.
Okay. Car Chaos is here. What's up?
I think it's Justine. Hey, Justine, I love you.
Oh yeah. She's appeared on a few of these. So hey,
she's the best.
There's a question here from 9 Lives, which that's actually the next thing we're gonna get to. So you'll hear that. Oh shit. I'm trying to keep up with this. Jesus. Did Curtis? Hey you. Oh, here we go. Babel228 says, "Hey you two, have to sleep now. I'm dead." See ya, man. He's in Germany, so
yeah. Have a good night.
Yeah. All right. So I guess the last part that, well, actually no. One thing I was actually going to bring up before, and then I'll get to the last part is because I was asking you about harp, and it's funny you mentioned that like not a lot of metal bands have done that. It's because we actually have a new song that for like whatever our next release is going to be that Gaia is actually going to play harp on.
Awesome.
Because our new guitar player Forrest, when he first joined the band, he gave me this song. Goes, "Hey, I wrote this. What do you think?" And it was like a full-on folk metal song with really like a lot of weird instruments in it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, dude, not only is this song great, like I had to rearrange it a bit, but I'm like, not only is this song great, but I know just who to get for not just for harp, but like a bunch of other stuff. Like there's like hurdy-gurdy in it. There's like hurdy-gurdy in it as well. It's just like, huh?
No, that's awesome. I can't wait to hear it. I'm sure it's gonna be amazing.
So the last thing that I'll ask, this is the thing I always ask everybody at the end, and I know, knowing you and knowing your reputation, I'm sure you'll have a lot of wisdom to impart in this department.
Oh boy. Here we go.
So usually I just ask, this is the part of the show where I ask whatever guests we have what advice would they like to impart to people who are like doing music, who are just starting. But one thing I've been doing more recently, which I feel is more effective, is I've been asking questions, like asking for like advice based on my guests' strengths, like kind of what they're known for. And in your case, and I don't remember if this was Curtis who said this or I heard this somewhere, but you were kind of known as like the queen of self-promotion. So my question to you is, what would you recommend for people? What advice would you give to people who are looking to self-promote more, and and adding on to that, like, what are some like anecdotes you can give us that like you promoting yourself like got you the opportunities that you have, like you're working with Zen from Neo Obliviscaris, or how you got your opportunity joining your old band. So what can you tell us about all that stuff?
I'm going to get the cat hair out of my nose first before I start on this one. I think the most important thing that musicians need to understand if they want to move more to a part-time, full-time place is people are going to see you before they hear you. That is just the reality of things right now. So, you really have to like present things in such a way that they can understand. They have like a 50% understanding of what you're going to sound like. and that'll pull them in and, you know, intrigue them. I mean, I've been in a position many times where you have to advocate for yourself. Like, no one else is going to push you as hard as you push yourself. And I think that's, it's really like, it's really important to do that, understanding marketing and branding. And like, oh man, I'm gonna get my sassy pants on. Like, there is no excuse for you as a musician not to start learning marketing and branding. There is so much business material out there now catered towards creatives and artists and musicians. Like, there's no excuse like that you can't pick up a book a month or something. Because the more you understand that, and also like the psychology of your fans, which like in the business world would be called your customers, but I think in metal it's far more special than just that. You know, that fan connection is huge, but that is so important. Like, that's key. Like, if you don't have those things down and you're not already like nurturing and taking care of the little community that you have, like you're not gonna, it's not gonna grow. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a ton more I could say about that if you want to pick my brain, but yeah, I think that's like a huge thing for sure. Like, self-promotion, I mean, yeah, you have to put it out there, like who you are, what you're what you're capable of. And you know, back in the day, oh man, I sound old, but back in the day, like before Cradles, you know, showed up and asked me to join, I was already out in my local scene being like, anybody need a piano line? Anybody need like some opera vocals? Like, I was already like being like, hey, like if you need these things for your album, I can do that. I'm available. Like, it's like that networking. It's kind of like a healthy networking, you know, putting things out there, doing things for doing things for others without expecting anything in return, kind of thing. And yeah, you'll have to do those first few gigs like for free. It's you know, as I can't remember the oh my god, why can't I remember her name? She wrote Big Magic, but she said, you know, in the beginning when you're starting out, like, pick your favorite flavor of shit sandwich, because you're going to be eating a lot of shit sandwiches. Because yeah, you do have to eat shit in the beginning, but as your resume grows, then you can put some worth and value, and then you can start, you know, being like, hey, yeah, you want that? I'm going to need a couple $100, you know? So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
like, I mean, I think that's hilarious. Like, the queen of self-promotion. I would have expected anything else. That's
Yeah, like,
amazing.
yeah, I don't remember if it was Curtis who said that, but I heard that somewhere. Like, because I heard that's kind of like how you got the opportunities that you have. And even some other guests I've had on the show, like last week I had my friend Bill Hudson. He's a guitar player from Brazil, and he's in name most like big metal, like old school metal solo artists, and he's probably played with them. He plays in Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He plays with Doro Pesh. He plays with Sabotage.
I've
You
probably
know.
seen him live. Probably.
Probably. You've probably seen him at some point because he's been in so
Yeah.
many bands. And I asked him the same thing. I said, I said, a guy from the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Brazil, how did you get the opportunities that you did? Like, because he moved to like America and all that. And he said the exact same thing. It's just like, he said, and I find that something that, as I said before, is more people need to hear, is that he said, oh, I just did the same thing. I always, whenever I met someone who I feel like is higher up the food chain than me, I'll always tell them, hey, if you ever need a guitar player for something,
Yeah.
let me know and I'll send you my stuff. And then he told me, he's like, oh, then I got in this kind of smaller power metal band, and then we opened for Zach Stevens, the old Sabotage singer. And then he contacted me to be in his solo band, and then in turn I got to play in Trans-Siberian Orchestra because of that. And it's sort of like this big, and I'm sure it's the same with you. It's sort of like this big chain. So I've found that that's kind of the advice I've kind of heard from a few people in terms of like how you get all these big opportunities. It's like I find that some people, and again, I'll talk about this with Mary as well, is that to some people it comes across as needy, but it really isn't, you know?
No, that's exactly it. Like the right people will see your confidence and see like that you're stating, this is who I am and what I do, and like successful people, and they'll be like, you know, like, okay, that's the person. And I always remember, like, one of my biggest joys in this industry in the time I've been in it is connecting the right people, so both of them like can step up their game, be more successful. Like that is like huge. Like when I find someone a gig or I find them an opportunity, like my heart is so full, you know what I'm saying? But the other thing that people, I think, it's common sense. Like I'm going to say this and so many people are going to be like, yeah, like that, like, duh. But it's also in your attitude. And I find as a session person in a band and as a solo artist, like there needs to be no excuses. You need to be hardworking. You need to be easy to work with, friendly, like, and no matter what attitude, have a lot of grit. If you are arrogant, like really entitled, you know, really difficult, argumentative, you know, that is not going to project you into a successful career. And I've only seen that from people who've been in the industry for like 20, 30 plus years and they're already famous and like they're bringing in the money and they can still behave that way. And it's really like vile and like just uncomfortable to be around coming from my generation. But I noticed the people who do, there is the occasional arrogant band I've seen move up the ladder. And I'm just like, it's a good thing you're talented because like, man, if you weren't talented, oh boy. But you know, like everyone who's like moving up, they're just like, especially in heavy metal, they are just the most like coolest, down to earth, fun, hardworking people who you can create great memories with. And there's a lot of old schoolers who are really cool too. Like every time I see the guys in Cannibal Corpse, like, oh my God, I've nearly died hanging out with George so many times. It's fine though. Like I live to tell the tale, but you know, like there's is definitely a formula for success. And if you're going to be a pain in the ass, you're probably not going to be that successful.
Yeah, and it's great that you brought that up because also, hey Jessica, what's up? You know, it's great that you brought that up because that's another thing that I've heard a lot of people say now is that the way I've kind of seen it is that the kind of age of the rock star attitude is dead, which I'm very happy about because that whole idea is stupid because, you know, it happened back in the 80s. That's because back then musicians weren't as accessible to their fans. There was always that wall there, you know. But now with social media, like I can even just say, and spoiler alert for guests of the show that'll be in the next few weeks. Because of like me doing this, I've been able to like talk to like some of my absolute heroes, and I never would have even thought they would even look in my direction. Like I'll message them and be like, hey, I have this show, we do live stream talks, blah 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 blah. Like I got like Leather Leone from Chastain coming up, and the old drummer from Blind Guardian, actually Toman the Omen, and they're all like, yeah, I'm down to do that. And I'm like, huh? So you kind of gotta be like cool, like kind of get rid of that attitude if you want to get anywhere nowadays, because with social media, it's much more easier for people to see through that, you know?
It's true. And I think like two things to say. First thing, I think it's coming very easily to you because I first heard about you when you did a live with Gaia and you guys caught me at the perfect time. I think I was doing dishes and folding my laundry. I'm like, oh, I'll hang out. And like, you know, when you asked me, I'm like, oh, like James seems like a really lovely dude. Like, of course I'll talk to him. You know, shoot, I feel like I lost my second point. Oh yeah, but what I don't, well, of course, and what I don't understand, which just like blows my mind, and it's like, if you are a foul human being and you're like in a position of power in our industry as like a celebrity type, and it's like now with like all the meet and greets that need to be done, the presence on social media, like meet and greets before shows, I can't imagine how exhausting it must be to just be this foul human and then have to be like, okay, time to meet the fans, put on my mask, be nice. Like I could never, like if you're just cool and fun and easygoing and a nice person all the time, you don't have to put on an act. You know what I mean? I could never, random point, I could just never understand how exhausting that is. Like, yeah, like I've done like 2 months with a meet and greet almost every day. And by the end of the 2 months, I was just like, hi, nice to meet you. I haven't slept in a week, you know, but like, yeah, I just, I could talk about the psychology of like the old school rock star thing, just, you know, how it's dying now. Like the only ones that people put up with are the old schoolers that have made a name for themselves. But yeah, I think you're going to be fine. Like you're a sweetheart. You know,
Thank you.
That's why, you're like this magnet. You're just like this warm glow, and I think that's why people want to be around you. You know what I'm saying?
I really appreciate it. It means a lot coming from you as well. But like, and just to add to that, that's actually like, I have a bit of a story that kind of goes on with that. And it's very topical considering who this is I'm about to talk about. He's gonna go to jail now, so I can talk shit.
Okay, sure, all right.
He's gonna go to jail now, so I can talk shit about him if I want. So John Schaefer from Iced Earth, I'm sure you've heard about that, right?
Oh, I know. I followed the whole thing. Yeah, absolutely.
So I went to Prog Power USA in Atlanta, like in 2019, the most recent one, and the headliners were Demons and Wizards.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to meet, and Hansi from Blind Guardian's like my hero, you know, my vocal, like, it's like Rob Halford, Freddie Mercury, him, you know, like his top three, you know. But anyways, it was him and John Schaefer doing the meet and greet, because it's like a half festival, half convention, because every band does a meet and greet. And Hansi, and just like the contrast between the two, Hansi was like a really warm, nice old German guy who he like, almost very fatherly. Like, even though the guy is like an absolute like god on stage, and you think that if you look at him funny, he'll like throw lightning at you or something, but he was super nice, very, very. But then there's John Schaefer, who, when I met him in the meet and greet line, he wasn't an asshole by any chance, but I got this really unpleasant vibe from him. Like, I could tell he did not want to be there. I can tell, like, as you said, he was just putting on this mask. I could tell he did not give a shit about any of us there.
His energy. Yeah,
his energy. Well, Hansi, which is the cooler guy in general, even before what happened, he was very nice and you could tell he was like very into interacting with the fans. But John Schaefer was just like, you know, it's unfortunate, like, to see that kind of thing. But now we know what kind of a person he is. So,
and that's, well, I know based on what he's saying. But that's the thing. It's just like, if that's what you don't want to do anymore, like, shit or get off the pot. Stop lying to your fans. Stop pretending, you know, like this is like your life and you love it so much. Like, it leads out. It obviously shows like you don't care anymore. You don't want to be there. And when you have that attitude, it's not going to show up in your music. It's not really going to show up in your stage performance. It's just like, retire, find something else, go start carpentry, or like, you know, raising chickens on your, you know, 2-acre lot, whatever it is that you need to do. But like, don't sit there and be like, well, I have to do this because it makes me money. But yeah, like, you're not happy. And now because of this close fan interaction, the fans are picking up on it too. Like, just get out of here.
Yeah. Also, while we were talking, I just missed a few comments from from Corey. Actually, Corey says, Lindsay being brutally honest somehow charming. I mean, yeah.
Thanks, Corey.
And she said, James, you're the most adorable person ever. Oh, thank you.
You are. You're adorable.
Thank you. You guys make me blush. Yeah, so it's past 6:30, so normally I'll call it now, but just because we're having such a good thing.
Yeah, if you want to keep going, I got time. So,
well, I was gonna say last chance for questions. If anybody has anything, then put us down there, and then I'll do all my shameless plugs and all that shit. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
What an adorable little wolf cub.
That's so cute.
I know why she calls me that, because when I did the podcast with her and Curtis, literally the entire time was just them making fun of my age.
How old are you?
22.
Yeah, you're so... Oh, man. I just did my first full-length album with my old band, Mary and the Black Lamb, when I was your age. And that's
really?
Like, yeah, it's on a few platforms now. I don't really talk about it because I feel like it's really, like, the production is great, but the songwriting is very underdeveloped. But yeah, no, like, it's so cool. It's just, like, looking back, like, you are a young pup and you've got a long way to go. And I hope that you continue to hold on to that fire that you have and don't become bitter and jaded.
Yeah, I'll admit I've met Curtis. He's 15. Does this facial hair look 15 to you? but yeah, no, it's I'm actually really happy that now I'm releasing my first full-length album at this age, because, you know, I have lots of ideas and projects I want to do, for the upcoming years and all that. So I'm glad that, you know, I have the time to do all that. Like,
Yeah.
like for example, like I always akin this to, because Curtis was asking me about this when I did the podcast, is that one other person who I had on the show a while back, she's a friend. She's a friend of the band, and I think you know her too. Adrian from Seven Spires.
Yeah, she's great. I love
Yeah,
her.
yeah. So it's just like I always look at people like you and her, and I'm just like I want to be at their level when I get a bit older, you know, like because you guys have done so many, like between like you and her, you guys have done so many things like I want to do. Like she's singing with Avantasia and stuff like that.
I know. She's just like, man, she is killing it. I am so proud of her. Like I look at like what she's doing and what she's accomplished, and I have so much love and respect for her. But just remember, like, there are going to be tough times along the way. And like, I can't tell you how many times I thought of quitting, walking away. Like there was like, and it's just, I feel like it's a test. Like, how badly do you want it? And then you learn the lesson and you never work with that person again, or you never hire that person again, or you never sign a deal like that ever again. And then you know, like everyone sees the success and the celebration, and like a lot of people don't know, like honestly, that Juno nomination didn't happen last year, I probably would have quit. Things were really bad, you know. There's like you gotta surround yourself with good people, like good people who are, they got your back, they're honest with you, they're looking out for you. You know, you don't feel alone. Like you feel you can tell them everything and talk to them. So that's like my best advice. But dude, you will get there. Just don't give up and surround yourself with really good people.
And I think, and I'll honestly say that during this time, like with COVID, that's actually come like a lot into perspective for me. Even though, again, despite how young I am, I've already gone through some of that. Like I've had like one thing I always like to joke with people about is that how unfortunate of a band we are, because I'm actually, aside from our guitar player Forrest, who we did a couple solos, I'm the only member of the band like that played on the album that's just coming out that's still in the band, because that's one of the things I find that it sucks when you're in a young band, is that there's so many egos. You know, there's so many people, like there's so many different ideas, and everybody wants to have their voice heard. Everybody wants to be for lack of a better word, everybody wants to be the star. Everybody wants their kind of, they're like, yeah, no, like, and I'll say again, I won't mention any names, but we've had members who it's literally like, sort of like, oh, it has to be my way or I'm not doing it. And, you know,
and that's immaturity. That's yeah.
And it's also like really like taxing, because as someone who like tries to be like a good leader in a band, you want to hear everybody's side of things, but like it's one of my problems before was always like I always had a hard time saying no to things. So now
power of no.
Oh yeah, power of no. And then but now with whoever the band members that like just left like at the beginning of the pandemic and all that, that was something that I had to be like, I had to start being like, because I'm like, no, this isn't good, this song isn't, it's like this song isn't good, or this or that's a bad idea, don't do it, blah blah blah. And you know, so like, even though I know I have a long road ahead to go, yeah. I've already experienced it, and it sucks. You know, I've already experienced the whole thing of having to deal with different egos in a band. But
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, as people grow and mature, like you'll see, it's not really about you. It's about the music you're making and everyone coming together and finding that happy medium ground to make it happen. Do you know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. So.
Oh, here we go.
I just missed it. So Julia's saying, tell us about your hometown scene and what inspired you about it. Man, yeah. My scene was so cool here. Like back in the day, I had been on stage when I was first 15, thanks to a venue here called The Dungeon. It no longer exists, but Behemoth has played it, KMFDM, a lot of big bands came through. Actually, when I went on tour with Behemoth, like years later, 2014, I hung out in Nerd was like, you know, come hang out, let's chat. And he's like, where are you from? And I'm like, Oshawa. He's like, oh, worst gig of my life. And I'm like, yeah, that would be The Dungeon in Oshawa. Like, I am not denying that. But the scene here is incredible. Like, we do the best with what we got. And the scene's always inspired me. And it's always, I feel like, you know, Oshawa music scene is something to be celebrated. Like, we have Crown Lands coming out of here now. You know, and talking more about alternative, I know there's some pop people coming out of here too, which is really exciting for us. but yeah, if it wasn't for that scene, like if we didn't have that venue, like I would have never got my start. I'd probably end up being a zoologist because, you know, if you don't have access to a stage, then what?
It's funny you mentioned the whole thing about my first show was actually when I was 15. First show, like outside of like playing at high school or whatever. It was at a venue here called the Rainbow, and they're not even a metal venue. They're just like they're like a blues place. They're like a blues venue, but like in my old band, our drummer at the time was like, "Yo, guys." There was like another band at their high school. He goes, "Yo, so and so asked us to open their show." Okay, and I was like in like the 10th grade, and it was kind of, it was really nuts. But I actually have a funny story similar to that too, because you mentioned Behemoth. So again, when I went to Prague Power USA, I actually found out the first day I was there because my hotel was like far from the venue. Like it was like a 15-20 minute walk.
Right.
And it was because like I like booked it last minute. And I'm sitting there in the lobby the first night, and I see Insomnium walk in, and I'm like,
guys,
"Oh yeah, they're so cool." And I'm just like, "This is where the bands are staying." So I went outside to talk to Insomnium. It was their guitar player, their newer guitar player, Yanni Liedemann, who, if you guys don't know, is also made Sonata Arctica is his big claim to fame, like the early Sonata Arctica stuff, and he was saying, and I said, "Oh, I'm a big fan of your work, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, "Oh, Canada." He goes, "Where in Canada?" I said, "Ottawa." And then his other guitar player comes out, the guy from Omnium Gatherum, and he goes, "Hey, Marcus, this guy came all the way from Ottawa to see us." Then he looks at me and grins and goes, "Mavericks?" I'm like, "Yep." He goes, "Oh, yeah, we played there so many times."
Yeah, it's a special little venue. Played there too. Yeah, no, Ottawa's great. I don't remember the last time I was there. Oh, that's a scary thought.
Well, will you and your solo band play here when you're able to?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the other rough thing with this pandemic. Like I had interest and was slated to do quite a few tours with my solo band, and then this pandemic hit and it just wasn't possible. But everything, like I'm a believer, like people can fight me on this, that's fine. I won't listen. But like I'm a believer that a lot of things do happen for a reason, and I was like suffering from burnout, so I think being forced to stay home and just enjoy writing and recording music was the better route, you know. But yeah, no, absolutely, especially with Antiqva. Like I think we're all super excited to get that on the road eventually, but we need to write an album first. Like I thought about it the other day, and I'm like, we have only 2 songs recorded that we can't even play live. That's great. I feel so good about my career.
Yeah, and I know what you mean, because like it was honestly like I believe in the same thing, that everything happens for a reason. Because for us, I don't know if you knew this, but like before this pandemic, we were supposed to go on our very first tour, like ever.
Oh,
we got booked on our first festival, and it was all the way out in Vancouver.
Wow.
It's a all power metal festival. It's called Hyperspace, and it was at the Rickshaw Theater in Vancouver, and I was so excited. And I spent 3 months booking this tour, like there and back, and then it didn't happen. And then, but a few months later, I looked in hindsight and I thought we weren't ready. We honestly weren't ready, because there was so much tension in the band at the time that if we were on the road, because the tour was supposed to be like 2.5 weeks, and there was so much
broke up halfway through.
Oh yeah, I look back on it, I'm like, one of us would probably beat one of the other ones bloody halfway through it, because there was so much tension at the time. So it was, and it was really like, even though it sucks, the promoter has still been really nice. He goes, "Okay, whenever we're able to, it's gonna be the same lineup. You guys will still be on it, you know, blah blah." But all I can say now is that the guys we have now is like the first time in my life I've had a lineup where we're all on the same page, and we all like the same music, and we all have the same goals, and we all contribute to each other, and none of us, as you said, none of us sugarcoat anything. If we think something shit, we'll tell each other that it's shit. So
yeah, I'm happy to hear you're in a better place. That's awesome, dude.
Thanks. So before I call it, we have about three more questions.
Sure.
One of them I don't remember who put it, because it was a while back, but I just I remembered it. I think it was Octavio. He asked, "Lindsay, do you like Rhapsody?"
I can't say I'm huge into them. I can appreciate them, but I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna go sit down and listen to Rhapsody. It's kind of been forced upon me because like my best friend really loves power metal, so symphonic power metal. So like I will go to one of her house parties and I'll listen to it and I'll appreciate it, but it's not like, oh, I really am digging. I'm craving this today.
I'll just say this: I love me some Rhapsody. So, okay, second last one we got. Alex, what are your favorite business books right now?
I'm currently reading How to Build a Story Brand. It's really interesting. It talks about like I love storytelling, so like applying it to business is really exciting. Um, Also, I don't think I have anything else on the go right now. The next one I think I'm going to read is called Tribes, and like my favorite business book ever is definitely the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. That was like that helped me build a healthy relationship with my finances. That was a great read, very inspiring.
Sweet. And I the last one I guess is from Octavio as well. Do you like sports?
Um, yes and no. I don't like team sports. Like I will watch them because my dad's a huge hockey fan. Like I'll watch team sports. I will not participate in it. I need my hands and limbs to play music. I don't feel like, sustaining an injury like that would suck. But I really like independent sports like swimming, horseback riding, archery. I've done falconry, like just all very medieval shit. Obviously,
Oh
sword
yeah.
fighting. Obviously, duh. No, no, I do. I really before the pandemic hit, me and my partner were actually going to go out and do archery, and then the pandemic hit, and here we are. And I don't even have the gym. So my current favorite sport is seeing if I can do my laundry and fold it before 8 p.m. on a Thursday.
It's actually funny you say that. We were actually going to do. I was actually going to start doing archery soon too because I did it actually I did it in high school for a bit, but then I stopped. So I need to kind of get on that again. But anyways, I'll call it for now. But thanks so much for coming on the show, Lindsay. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, dude, it was awesome. Thank you for having me. It's so nice to finally meet you. You're great.
Yeah, so I
really
finally meet you too. Let me just do my my little kind of outro, and then we'll call it. So I'm sure most of you watching already do, but follow Lindsay, follow Antiqva, follow us at Lycanthro_metal. And this is the first stream I can actually say this in, but our new single Crucible is out on YouTube. Links in our bio. Go check it out if you're a fan of like Judas Priest, Blind Guardian, all that stuff. If you're a fan of that, go check it out. So thanks, guys. Once again, thanks, Lindsay, for coming on. It was awesome.
I do. Thank you. Have a good night. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. You too. And thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.